What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strack Button, joined always by my man in the corner with the itchy eye, producer Nick Belsky. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talker. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers, what a day it was. We came in here with plenty of excitement. We knew things were going down. At least we expected things to go down. And, well, not one but two trades happened right before the deadline. First, I have to apologize for being late. I just spent the last hour and a half locked outside of my house. It ended with me climbing through a window that I should not have fit through, but we did what we needed to do to get here as fast as we possibly can. So I apologize, but I appreciate everybody who is sticking with us and still showed up for this bad boy. We're diving into Mike Williams, Preston Smith, Overreaction Tuesday, and all of your questions in a jam-packed episode for All Steelers Talk on trade deadline day. Nick, I'm fired up. I'm out of breath. Okay. Definitely slightly dehydrated because I've just been sitting roasting in the sun. Shout out to forget what they're called. Classic Tees, keeping me cool here on a day where I'm definitely sweating. I'm feeling good. How are you feeling?
It feels like Murphy's Law. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong today, because as soon as you hit start, which obviously you outlined everything that happened prior to us getting on here. I don't know what it was, but something flew into my eye, and that's why I was down. I was like, this is a bunch of bad omens going around. So hopefully there's no more interruptions for what should be a very exciting episode.
Yes, it'll be a jam. I mean, look, I can't say I'm sorry enough. I can't apologize. I heard it. Okay. After the story that you guys all witnessed and heard about last week, a week today, actually, yeah. I have started locking my doors, religiously locking my doors, all of them. And I went out. There's a side door at the side of my house. You got to turn the little knob thing to open it. Turn the knob thing. I walked outside to grab something. I moved my foot a little bit too much, and all I heard is click. And in the whispers, I heard the Pat McAfee show playing from my phone on the other side of the glass. And I went, this is ridiculous. This could not have happened to me on a worse day. But I think all things, they all come with laughs. And that's exactly what this was a laugh. So I appreciate everybody sticking it out. And we promise we got a jam-packed episode to make up for it. Let's start with the Pittsburgh Steelers day. And my gosh, what a day it was. Not one trade, but two. And while the first one was a little bit predictable, and a lot of people said that chances were it was going to happen, we just didn't know when it was going to happen, how much it was going to happen for. There were questions that needed to be answered, but he was still the hottest name on the market when it came to the black and gold. The second trade came out of nowhere. I texted you, along with everybody else in our group chat, maybe 20 minutes before this happened, and said, just got a text that said, not done yet. And I didn't know where it was going. I guessed offensive tackle. I said possibly another wide receiver. Instead, we went with a pass rusher in Preston Smith, and we'll dive into him here in a couple of minutes. But he is the guy. Like, he is the Steelers just killed it on this trade deadline day because of how dang good Preston Smith is. We'll start with Mike Williams. Mike Williams for the New York Jets, or from the New York Jets, for a 5th round pick. I think it was a little bit higher than we anticipated him going for to the Steelers. Thought it would be a 6th or a 7th, but still a guy that's coming in here. He's 30 years old. He's got 2,000-yard seasons, over 4,000 yards in his career, 31 touchdowns, excuse me. And the Steelers are paying $625,000 or whatever it is to keep him. So you could say they didn't shoot for the stars. They didn't land the big name. There was no big name that went. There is no big name that went today. We didn't watch Darius Slayton get traded. We didn't watch Cortland Sutton get traded. We didn't sit around and watch Cooper Kupp or DK Metcalf get traded. Nobody else got dealt. It was the Mike Williams who was in. Adam Thielen didn't even get traded. It was who's in on Mike Williams. The Pittsburgh Steelers realized that they had one option left, and they needed to make a move on it, and that they did. Mike Williams for a 5th-round pick. Hit me with it, the man in the mirror or the man in the dark, whatever we're going to call you today.
Yeah, certainly in the dark. It's getting darker by the minute. But, again, this is a move that whenever we outlined who they could potentially get, we always towards the bottom. But at the end of the day, he's the only one that went. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, you could have gotten Darius Slayton. Well, you could have gotten Adam Thielen. But all I'll say is this: comparison is the thief of joy. You can't compare.
Agreed.
At the end of the day, the only wide receiver that is here is Mike Williams. And when you look at him on paper, he is an upgrade over what you had at wide receiver 2 before. If you were going with whether you want an amalgamation of Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson versus you have Mike Williams, you're going to take Williams and add that to the pack. So while it's not a home run, and I said this on Twitter, a single works, right? Because a single can lead to a 2-run home run. And I think they hit more than a single today with both moves considered. But when talking specifically about Mike Williams, I think he helps add to the Steelers offense. Does he raise the ceiling measurably? No. But at the end of the day, he raises the ceiling, and that's a good thing for the Steelers.
That's all they could have done at the end of this. And that's what you have to do is you could take every take that you've had before, every opinion that you had before today, and you could squash it because it doesn't matter. None of it matters. You got to go with the waves of the NFL, and the NFL is constantly moving and constantly shifting and constantly changing. Opinions should change as well on a day-to-day basis. And that's where we ended up. We all ended up watching the Pittsburgh Steelers acquire Mike Williams that yesterday we said was not a move that made them better, but just simply a move. And today it was, well, he was the only move available. And if that is the only move available, you have to make it. Now, is it DeAndre Hopkins? Is it, I don't know who else went, Deontay Johnson that they couldn't have gotten, but would have been nice? Was it Brandon Ayuk? Devontae Adams? No, it wasn't any of those guys. It was the guy that was available. It was the guy that was left, and that was Mike Williams. And it wasn't the best move, but it certainly was a move that they needed to make and did make, and you have to praise them for that because they had to do something. If they went into the back half, if your options were do nothing or do something, you were doing something. And that's a win for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Preston Smith, on the other hand, you want to talk about a guy that, I mean, you want to talk about a guy that's a guy. You want to talk about a guy that makes a difference on the Pittsburgh Steelers. You want to talk about a guy that people should be excited for what he brings to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That is Preston Smith. Didn't see it coming. Didn't see it coming at all. And to be honest with you, when I first did this, when I first talked about this, I was thinking, okay, this is a good depth piece on the interior. I found out that this dude is strictly pass rusher off the edge, which I don't know. We got a picture of him. Let's pull up the picture. I don't know if this belly is rushing off the edge, but if it is, I mean, he started 9 years in the league pretty consistently. He's a dude who has 68.5 sacks. Look at that belly. That belly, that's not like compared to TJ Watt. That's a defensive tackle. Compared to Nick Herbig, Alex Highsmith, that's a defensive tackle. People are saying he's an edge rusher. Everybody says he's an edge rusher. He doesn't play the same position as a TJ Watt or an Alex Highsmith in Green Bay. He's going to in Pittsburgh. We'll see what happens. Either way, Preston Smith is a dude that comes in here with a ton of starting experience. Started 9 games this season, has 2 sacks, had 8 sacks last season. He's a guy that's consistent. He's reliable. He's an excellent run stuffer. And that's what I was looking for. I could care less how often you get to the quarterback. How good are you at improving the run defense for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Because they desperately needed to be improved. And that was it. That was the piece. I think that's what the Steelers did. At the end of this, the Steelers went out and said, we have 2 gaping holes, wide receiver and our run defense. And they went out and they filled both of them. And that's a good day to give up a 5th round pick and a 7th round pick. I mean, I'll let you go off as well. Your thoughts on the Preston Smith move and really just this whole thing overall.
Yeah, I really like the Preston Smith move. And the one thing that you said is maybe you overpaid a little bit for Mike Williams. I think you underpaid a little bit for Preston Smith. I think it would make more sense if you would have got Preston Smith for a 5th and Mike Williams for a 7th. So I think it kind of washes it out a little bit, in my opinion. But you mentioned he's really good against the run game, but it's not like he's bad against the pass rush either, right? He's able to get home. He's had a 10-sack season. He's had multiple 8+ sack seasons. He has 2.5 already this season. I think what we saw today is the Pittsburgh Steelers go out and get exactly what we knew they wanted, right? They wanted Mike Williams in the offseason. They tried to get him in on a interview basis, but he already signed with the Jets before he could get here. So they wanted Mike Williams before. They go out and get him today. They wanted a number 4 edge rusher. They brought in Marcus Golden during training camp, and then he retired. So you knew they wanted to add to that position. They were able to go out and do it with a very solid veteran in Preston Smith. So they're filling holes. They're making moves that a Super Bowl contender will make. So I like the fact that they're doing that. I like the fact that they said, no, we need to get at least a couple of players at the trade deadline. And I like that they're adding depth to important positions. Your edge rusher, which has dealt with multiple injuries this year already, and wide receiver, a position that everybody said you needed more help at, you got some help at. And again, you can argue how much help you got, but I think there is something to be said about the fact that they went out and they were able to get something in general on a trade deadline day that was much slower at that position than everybody expected.
100% agreed. So I got 2 questions for both of these guys. We'll start off with Mike Williams. Was it enough? Like, was Mike Williams enough for you to go, the Steelers, I don't want to say move the needle. We talked about this, but the Steelers were a team that were, in my opinion, on the verge of a contender status. You know, like you knew that they'd be in the dance. You felt good about them being in the dance. It was more so, how far in the dance can they go? How deep can they get? Can they win some playoff games? Is Mike Williams enough for you to sit here and say, there's a shot they compete with the Bills. There's a shot they compete with the Ravens. There's a shot they compete with the Kansas City Chiefs. Teams like that.
I don't think it changes my mind because I thought they could already compete with those teams to begin with. I think if you added a piece, and we'll get to it in Overreaction Tuesday, if you added a piece that was significant, you could become one of the front runners in that conversation. I don't think they became a front runner in that conversation, but I do think they're already up at that level this year. I think the offense has shown that it can get to that next level that we haven't seen in years. And the defense, you know, adding a guy like Preston Smith, not to mention the amount of players that are going to get healthy here over the next week, as Mike Tomlin alluded to today in his press conference, the defense has an opportunity to, if they can put all the pieces together the right way, be one of the best units in the NFL, which is going to be a huge factor in shutting down Lamar Jackson and that Ravens rushing attack, especially when you add Preston Smith, as well as a team like Kansas City, who offensively has not been great this year. They have not been amazing this year offensively. That is a defense-first team right now, despite the fact that they have Patrick Mahomes. So how do you stop that? Get your defense built and ready to go up against their defense and see which offense can break through first. I think it gives the Steelers a better opportunity, but I don't think that the 2 moves made today are going to, as somebody asked in the comment section, it's not going to change my projection on what their record's going to be. It's not going to take them from a Super Bowl, hopeful to get there to a Super Bowl favorite. It's not going to do any of that. What it's going to do is solidify what they are already, which is a really darn good team in the AFC that if all things go right, it can take them good places.
I agree. It's a move that there was nobody on this roster when it came to wide receiver outside of George Pickens that you looked at and just said they could have a game. There was the Calvin Austins that you were hoping could have a game, and you felt confident that every once in a while they would. There's the Van Jefferson that you like his 62 yards. Is that a game? Maybe. There's a maybe there. With Mike Williams, it's maybe Mike Williams has a game. Maybe Mike Williams has 100 yards in a time when you need 100 yards. And you kind of feel like there's a possibility there because he's done it before. I get it. Mike Williams is not the superstar, but he's got a much better resume than anybody else in Pittsburgh outside of George Pickens. A much better resume. And that's all they needed. They just needed somebody with a resume. Somebody that said, okay, he could do stuff. He's done it before. There's a possibility here because there was no possibility. It was just a bunch of guys that have not done it that the Steelers were saying, well, maybe they could do it. At least this is a guy who's done it. Maybe he'll do it again. And you feel okay about that. With Preston Smith, I think it does raise the bar a little bit. I think there's potential that Preston Smith makes this defense just so much better. so much better. He's a starter in Green Bay, which is a good defense. In Washington before, like 10 years in the NFL, he started all 10 of them. That's impressive. That's very impressive. And I think if you could add a guy that I just don't expect him to only play outside, if you could just add him to your defensive line somewhere at any time and say, just stuff the run, whoever is going off right now, just slow him down. That's something they haven't had, and now they do have, and I think that'll come in handy a ton. But I agree with you. I don't sit here and say that their roster changes or their projection changes. I just look at it and say, like, it makes them better. They definitely got better today. I don't think they got 13-3 better. I don't think they got, 15-2, whatever the new records would be. I just think that they got better. And at the end of the day, that's all they needed to do today. Because if we sat here and said there was nothing going on, which we were starting to get a little nervous that was going to happen, then it would have been a much worse episode, and we would have had a much different outlook on today. So anything is something, and that's what the Pittsburgh Steelers did. You got to feel okay with it. Shout out. Go ahead.
I was going to say, what have you said the last week and a half about Mike Williams? That's not a guy that you expect to come in here and light the world on fire, but that sounds like a guy that's going to come in here and catch a huge pass in the playoffs or in a Super Bowl and just be like, wow. I mean, he hasn't done anything for a while, but he made that catch, and that's huge. And especially a guy of Mike Williams's kind of making, which is big plays, right? That's a 50-50 contested catch guy. So now, I was outspoken in saying, I don't think you need another one of those. I think you needed somebody to kind of navigate the middle of the field and the intermediate routes. But
I agree.
You get a guy on the other side of things, and now you have another option for Russell Wilson. And I guess when you look back at it, the last game and against the Giants, they were uncorking the ball, not just the George Pickens, but they threw it downfield to Van Jefferson. They threw it downfield to Scotty Miller. You have a guy in Mike Williams who I trust a little bit more than both of those guys if the 50-50 ball goes up to him instead. So I guess that's a net positive as well.
I agree. Look, it's just, and we want to talk bold predictions. Maybe Thursday, that's a bold prediction. Mike Williams catches a game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oof. It kind of feels like DeAndre Hopkins might take that away from everybody, but he does it. Like, that's a guy that it just feels like that's a guy that you could look at in that moment. Whereas the Steelers did not have that guy. They did not have that guy. And it haunts me to think of Anthony McFarland trying to catch a 4th-and-1 pass as a rookie against the Washington Commanders on the sideline, because they didn't have that. That was it. That's who they picked to catch that football. Okay. Well, now they have George. You're going to take away George. All right. We'll throw it to Mike. And that's okay. Like, that's okay. In the grand scheme of things, that's okay. It's better than where they were yesterday or at 3:59 p.m. today. All right. With that said, it's still Overreaction Tuesday. We still have a ton of questions to answer, and there are a boatload of them when it comes to these trades. So I'm very excited to answer all of them. We're going to dive into all of that and probably a little bit more. But first, we got a word from our boys over at DraftKings. If you're as dedicated to your football team as I am, you've got to check out my partners, DraftKings Sportsbooks. With options to bet on your favorite team, favorite players, props, and more, there's something for everyone. And right now, all new customers who bet just $5 will get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Now, that's something to celebrate this season. Just download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and sign up using my promo code ALLSTEELERS. The crown is yours. That's right. New customers can bet just $5 on anything and receive $200 in bonus bets instantly. Stay in on the action and use your $200 in bonus bets on DraftKings same game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. Combine multiple bets together from the same game. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the shot to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use my promo code ALLSTEELERS and bet just $5 on any wager and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code ALLSTEELERS only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Shout out our boys over at DraftKings Sportsbook. We forgot to say that we both hit last night, which is nice.
We did.
It's nice. You got to feel good to finish above 500. Shout out the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin, keep it trucking here. Keep it trucking. All right. With that said, it's Overreaction Tuesday. I know it's trade deadline Tuesday. I know it's election day Tuesday. I know everybody's real tired. I know everybody's been waiting a lot in lines. I did not think that I was climbing through windows today as well, but we're here. We're doing it, and I'm excited. Okay, Nick's sitting in the dark, and we're powering through this bad boy.
Listen, I during the commercial break, I moved my light to try to get a little bit more.
I was going to say, you look a little brighter.
I'm trying. I'm trying to actually be present.
How do you do this? You look good. You look like any influencer who's out there just sitting in the dark. You know, you turn on those videos and you're just like, it's just real dark in there, pal. Yeah. Real dark in there. How do you do it at night? How do you do the watch-alongs?
I do the watch-alongs in my living room on the couch where there's more lighting. There's no overhead lighting in the room that I do the podcast in, which causes some issues. Like
it's just
today.
A closet. It's just a closet, essentially.
Yeah, essentially.
Nice.
Essentially.
Nice. Shout out. All right. It's still Overreaction Tuesday. We're diving into some overreactions, and we got some good questions to answer. I'm excited for this one. I know it was a bye week, so things are maybe boring, but I mean, today juiced them up for sure. With that said, Nick, I'm going to toss it to you. Overreaction, which I have an update on the video. Forgot to say we have an update on the video. It's coming, and we got a deadline. I gave him 2 weeks. I said, we need 2 weeks. They said, I'll have it before 2 weeks. I said, all right, word. Let's get it kicking here. We'll see. There'll probably be some fine tuning, but we'll go back and forth. We'll get this done. So very excited. And also, I'll make the shout out tomorrow. I forgot the t-shirt, but there's a lot of stuff going on. All right, let's toss it to you. Overreaction Tuesday, week 10 of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Washington Commanders season. I'm tossing it to you, Nick. What do we got?
You know, I know I said comparison is the thief of joy earlier, but I am going to make a comparison really quickly. Adding DK Metcalf would have made the Steelers the favorite to come out of the AFC.
Out of the AFC. If you said AFC North, I would have said yes. No, out of the AFC, I still think that's an overreaction. Only because there's this guy, Patrick Mahomes, who seems to be invincible, who tears things in his knee, and then people are saying the Taylor Swift magic effect made sure that wasn't going to happen. Who knows? But he comes back like nothing ever happened, wins a game for the Kansas City Chiefs. They remain undefeated. Until proven otherwise, the Kansas City Chiefs are the team that you just look at and go, you pissed me off because I know you're going to win. You piss me off because you know what I mean? Like you're watching their games, and at this point, you're just kind of angry all the time. You're going, why can't somebody just beat them? It would be really nice if somebody beat them, which stinks because I like Patrick Mahomes. I like Travis Kelce. I kind of liked that team, and I've liked the guys that have come and gone from that team. Big Andy Reid guy. But they're turning into a little bit of the devil, a little bit of the NFL devil right now. I'm going overreaction until the Chiefs stink. The Chiefs are the favorite. And I'm talking stink, like not lose, stink, because until then, they're the favorites, and they deserve to be the favorites.
All righty, let's go to the wide receiver that the Steelers actually acquired. Mike Williams will outgain Deontay Johnson from week 10 onward.
Oh, I like this one. I like this one a lot, actually. Deontay Johnson did nothing in his Ravens debut.
He only played in 30% of the snaps, but he got 0 targets.
0 targets. I would expect that to pick up. I would. But I think you, like Mike Tomlin says, you're jumping on a moving train. The difference is Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman and Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews are on that train. And the Pittsburgh Steelers train ain't taking up much room. There ain't much on there to clog this train up. There are plenty of seats everywhere. And Russell Wilson's staring at those empty seats going, Mike, take a seat, pal. We got to talk. So I think this is not an overreaction. I could very, very well see it being Mike Williams with however 400 yards or something in Pittsburgh for the next couple of weeks and Deontay Johnson doing little to nothing, simply because more loaded room in Pittsburgh or in Baltimore than it is in Pittsburgh. And Mike Williams he's going to have to come in here and play. He's going to have to come in here and be a contributor, because if he's not, like if it was a 6th round pick, 7th round pick, I could see the Steelers being the Steelers about this. But a 5th round pick, like you gave up something for this guy. You gotta use him. I would say that's not an overreaction.
All righty, let's go to my final one before we go to a couple listeners' ones. Najee Harris will easily set a new career high in rush yards and finish top 5 after a dominant second half.
Top 5 in the NFL?
He's only in the NFL. He's only about 200 off the top 5. I couldn't say top 2 because Saquon and Derrick Henry are just very far ahead right now.
Yeah, say that Derrick Henry's about to have 2,000 yards. Saquon might be jumping his way to 2,000 yards. Who else is on that top 5 list? Do we know?
I'll look it up for you right now.
Because I got to say that Saquon, if you said top 3, I'd say overreaction, no chance. But I don't know who 3, 4, and 5 are, and that makes a difference.
We got Derrick Henry leading the pack at 1,052. Saquon has 925. Then there's a dip. Josh Jacobs is at 762. Jordan Mason is at 685, and Chuba Hubbard is at 665. Right now, Najee Harris is 14th with 592, so about 67 yards off of a top 5 spot.
He's 14th, and there's 62 yards between him and 5. I would say that's not an overreaction. Najee Harris could finish top 5 in the NFL. Jordan Mason's going to fall off once Christian McCaffrey comes back, which will happen at some point. I mean, Chuba Hubbard, that's awesome. I'm glad that he is kicking butt. I really liked him in college. I liked him coming out of college. Come on. The Carolina Panthers aren't going to – there's just not even going to be enough opportunities by the end of the season to be top 5. That's just – nope, not happening. I could see that happening. 62 yards, that's all he's got to gain on these guys. I could see it happening. I think it's more everybody else than Najee Harris, but I would say that's not an overreaction. The setting the record part, a career high, I'm going to say that's also not an overreaction simply because this is the best offensive line, and I know that it's got a gaping hole, but this is the best offensive line that Najee Harris has ever played in front of.
And it's also the best start he's ever had to a season as well. And this is typically a second half guy. So that's why I 100% agree. This is not an overreaction. Let's go to some listener inquiries here in this Overreaction Tuesday. Let's go to I'm MF Tide, who says, if the Steelers don't trade for an above average wide receiver, which you can judge whether or not Mike Williams is above average, they will lose more games than win in the back half of the season.
Okay, so Mike Williams is an above average wide receiver. We could say that. I mean, like, what are we classifying as average? Van Jefferson's got to be average. Maybe slightly below average. Yeah, Mike Williams is definitely above average if that is the scale. Maybe not way above, but slightly above average at this point in his career. But I would still say, no, that's an overreaction. The Steelers are 6-2 without any of these guys. They could have did it. They could have beat Baltimore. They could have beat Cleveland. Is not a scare anymore. They were a scare for 1 week. Okay, cool. They're gone. It's over. The Browns are the Browns. The Cincinnati Bengals will have their time, but I saw somebody try to make a bold prediction saying the Cincinnati Bengals are going to finish with a better record than the Steelers. What are we talking about here? What are we doing? Why have we not watched the since they beat a bad team and everybody's like, there it is, man. They're back. They are back. No, the Bengals are too easy. They play the Ravens well. I would say that is an overreaction. There's no way that they would have finished with a losing record in the back half.
All righty, let's jump over to Sajan Patel, who says we will beat the Eagles, Ravens, and Chiefs back to back to back later this season.
Now that is an overreaction. that is a gauntlet. Okay. That is crazy. And it gets crazier when you break down that they have 4 days between the most physical game that they will play all season long and then the best player that they will play all season long. That is, I mean, after a week in Philadelphia, which is not easy, playing Saquon, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, like, what do we know? That anybody holding expectations that they're going to go 3-0 and that little shift there, you're wild. And if they do it, that's incredible. That is an all praise to them. That is a team that you have totally different outlook on at the end of that one than you did going in there. But nobody should hold the expectation that they're going to go 3-0. And you should not be disappointed if they go 1-2 or 2-1. As long as they don't go 0-3, you got to feel okay. I'm going overreaction. There's just no chance they win all 3 of those games. I'm sorry, but there's just being realistic. You can't do it.
Let's jump over to David, who says the Steelers will not acquire a rookie quarterback via the draft for the foreseeable future. They will instead rely on trading for established quarterbacks.
Okay, so I'll counter this one, and I'll say that it's an overreaction just because you said that they will rely on veteran quarterbacks via trade and other things. They're going to keep Russell Wilson. they're going to keep Russell Wilson. They're going to give Russ 3 years. They're going to say, here's a 3-year deal, whatever. It's backloaded just like the rest of them, so that if he stinks in the first year, you could get rid of him. But if he doesn't, you hold on to him. They're going to give Russ 3 years. That's 3 years. That's the foreseeable future. And then in that time span, they will draft a rookie, but they will not rely on him until Russ is gone. So Justin was supposed to be the rookie. Okay. Russ looks too good right now to make Justin the rookie. So they're going to do it again next year. Russ will get a 3-year deal. A rookie will come in and learn behind him, and they will pull it off in 3 years where they change. So I'm going to say overreaction only because of the way that you see the Steelers going about all of it.
Let's jump to Army Weiss, who says the Steelers only lose to the Eagles in the back half and are first in the AFC going into the playoffs, which would have them at 14-3 to end the season.
That would mean the Chiefs have to lose 2 other games. I don't know, like when are they losing a game? When? I don't know when that's going to happen. That's an overreaction. The Chiefs are going to win the AFC. They're going to win the AFC. Unless something happens, unless something unforeseen that we cannot predict right now happens, the Chiefs are going to win the AFC. They're going to win the AFC. They're going to go in as the 1 seed. And if Pittsburgh's good enough to go to Arrowhead, they will go to Arrowhead, and they will try to get their way into a Super Bowl in the most hostile environment in football. So shout out, and it'll be a good time. But overreaction. I'm sorry, the Chiefs are winning the AFC. They're getting the 1 seed in the AFC.
We got a couple that are in the live chat here that we'll go to next. Let's go to Ears, EERS, who says, overreaction. We had a shot at the Super Bowl this year and just value priced our way to a 1 playoff win season. Mike Williams doesn't move a Super Bowl contender makes.
Mike Williams is a move that Super Bowl contenders make. So I'll push back on that one. I'll say that's an overreaction because it was McCole Hardman last year. And McCole Hardman is a Mike Williams move. Does not move the needle at all. You're not looking at him going, that guy. Otherwise, the Steelers would have tried to sign him in the offseason. That McCole Hardman caught a game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. Juju Smith-Schuster is not any better than Mike Williams. Juju Smith-Schuster caught a game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. It is actually a move that Super Bowl contenders make. That being said, it's not the best move. I think the Steelers had a shot to, let's say, be a Super Bowl favorite, one of the Super Bowl favorites. I don't think they did enough to do that, but I'm not going to say that their shot at the Super Bowl is over simply because if they didn't, honestly, I would have less of an argument to make, but I think Preston Smith makes this defense better. And if your defense is good by the end of the season, you're in a much better spot, whether you traded for Mike Williams or nobody. So I would say overreaction. It is a move that Super Bowl contenders make, but usually they like Russell Wilson isn't the quarterback and it's Patrick Mahomes and it's just a different circumstance.
All right, let's finish off Overreaction Tuesday with this one from Stephen Cornfield, who says, overreaction. The Steelers go 7-2 in the back half and easily take the division.
I could see that happening. I don't want to. That's really walking the line of an overreaction, like really walking the line of an overreaction. But I could see that teetering towards not an overreaction. You lose to either Washington or Philadelphia and then Kansas City. I could see that happening. You go undefeated in the AFC North. Why not? They did it last year. Why? There should be nothing that says they can't do it this year. Not saying it's easy. It's very difficult. And Lamar Jackson is a much better quarterback this year than he was a year ago. I would say it's as close to an overreaction as you get, but it's not an overreaction because I could see it happening and I could see them stunning some people, especially because there is no games that they shouldn't win. You lose to Cincy. Yeah, you should lose to Cincy. They're an AFC North team. Rivalry games don't count. The Browns are the same way. So there are no games that they shouldn't lose that they deem themselves potentially victim to losing. So I will say that's not an overreaction.
That's a wrap for Overreaction Tuesday then.
Love it. Love it. That was a good one. Appreciate everybody bringing the energy because we needed it. You know what I mean? Nick's over there in pure dead of night. I'm slamming. I'm like just about done with this bad boy. Cracked it 10 seconds before we got on this show. So let's keep it going. let's answer some questions. We're going to dive into the live chat questions here. If you have them, toss them in the chat. We'll get to as many of them as we possibly can before we get out of here. I know we got a bunch of trade stuff to go through, so very excited about it. Nick, what do we got?
Yeah, let's start with Cody Silva. Appreciate you as always. Says, now that the trades are over, we can all relax, hit the golf course, and shotgun some beers.
Yes,
what
sir.
brand clubs do you guys use, and what are you best with? I'm a TaylorMade guy and nice with a 60 degree.
I am also a TaylorMade guy. I got the Stealth 2s, actually, and they were the best purchase I made. I bought those before I bought a house, and everybody told me I'm an idiot. And I'll tell you, I was not. They were worth every penny. So I'm a Stealth 2 guy. I'm a TaylorMade guy. I am nice with my I got a 60. I got a Cleveland 60, and I am not 52 degree though. Killer with a 52. What do you rock with over there, Nick? You be golfing all the time.
I play with what I got. To be completely honest, I have not bought, outside of a driver and a putter, I've not bought a golf club a day in my life. So I take
all
what I get.
hand-me-downs.
All hand-me-downs. I take what I get.
Nice.
So
nice.
Best probably with a 5-wood. So that's always straight. Always, that's the only club that's always straight. So yeah, always rely on that one.
Nick's gonna get a pair of clubs one day and just be like, "Holy gosh, what was I missing out on this whole time?"
Been so much better.
Yeah, you're gonna be shooting par, like, and just be like, "Wow, dude, what could have been? What could have been?"
Exactly. Let's jump over to Cody's second question. Says, if God forbid an injury happened to Pickens, could Mike Williams be a number one?
He's got to be, right?
Yeah.
He's got to be. That's the answer to that question. There's no other way around it. He's got to be. But I feel much better about a Mike Williams being a number one than what it was 6 hours ago, 12 hours ago, 24 hours ago when we're talking on this show. So I mean, the answer is he has to. Let's hope that doesn't happen. But they don't have any other options.
Alrighty, let's go over to Tyler, who says, is Williams that much better than Noah Brown, who we could have gotten for nothing? Would we get comp picks for Fields, Najee, and or Williams if they don't come back next year?
No, you don't get any comp picks for any of those guys. I believe Williams. Who am I missing with Williams here?
Mike Williams.
Mike Williams. Excuse me. Sorry. New guy. No, I don't believe you get any comp picks for those. With Noah Brown, the Steelers didn't really have interest in Noah Brown, which was very surprising. They've been interested in Mike Williams, but I'll tell you this: when Mike Williams was a free agent, teams looked at Mike Williams as a big name. They were ready to throw money at Mike Williams. Nobody was ready to throw money at Noah Brown. It was, hey, Mike Williams is on the market. Let's go get Mike Williams. Can't believe the Chargers just cut him. That's what they were saying. So I get it. He hasn't done much in New York, but teams have a different outlook on this guy than many other wide receivers that were available. And there's got to be a reason for that. I'm not trying to hype him up, but there has to be a reason that people viewed Mike Williams a little bit differently than the others that were on the market.
Let's jump down to Unlimited Moonballs, who says, is GP and Mike Williams an upgrade from GP and Deontay Johnson?
No. Deontay Johnson this year with a good offense, a good quarterback. You can only imagine what George Pickens and Deontay Johnson would have accomplished. They would have done a lot, but sometimes you have to make your locker room better. That's what the Pittsburgh Steelers did. I understood it. I got it. You got to, at the end of the day, have good chemistry and good attitudes and good leadership, and they were not getting them. And I think it was both of them that were causing issues. They had to pick one. They were obviously going to pick Deontay Johnson over George Pickens. So talent-wise, no. But maybe, chemistry-wise, yes. Who knows? We'll find out.
I'll put a definite positive spin on this one and say, I don't think that tells the whole picture. I think you have to say, is George Pickens, Mike Williams, and Dante Jackson better than George Pickens, yes, Deontay Johnson, and Levi Wallace? And I think that you'd rather take the former than the latter in that instance.
I agree. That is a good spin. I agree. You add Dante Jackson to this, it's a different equation and definitely a much easier answer to come up with.
Let's go over to Steven, who says, should they have pounded the table for Adam Thielen? I don't think Williams will do more than what Van Jefferson has.
I think Mike Williams will certainly do more than what Van Jefferson has. And that's, I hate bagging on Van Jefferson as much as we do, but Mike Williams is a guy he's got 2,000-yard seasons. He's got a couple of 900-yard seasons. Like, he's got 31 touchdowns. He's done this, and he's done this for a while. And he's been a number one and number two with some banged up quarterbacks and some bad offensive coaches and the whole nine. He's done this, and he's He's done it good enough. So he's definitely an upgrade from what they had. Should they have pounded the table for Adam Thielen? No. If you're going to pound the table for anybody today, it would have been Cortland Sutton, maybe Darius Slayton. That would have been the two that you were saying, hey, can we please make something work? But I'm not, if the price tag for Darius Slayton was a second or a third round pick, I'm not like super upset about it compared to Mike Williams, simply because like what would pound the table mean? And what happens if it doesn't work out? He turns out to not be that good or not fit into your offense. Where do you go from there? What'd you just lose out on?
Let's go over to Chef Rusty Daddy, who says, I saw a report that we did check out Darius Slayton first. Why didn't we take him?
I would imagine the price tag was high. The New York Giants have this weird thing going on where they say, we're going to be fine. We're going to be good. Daniel Jones is going to turn this thing around. We have almost no shot at the playoffs, but we will try. And it doesn't make any sense to me. And I think it's crazy, to be honest with you. And if I'm a New York Giants fan, I'm angry right now that they did not trade Darius Slayton for what was probably better than a 5th round pick. So, and they didn't trade that other guy either, the edge rusher either. So, I mean, crazy, but I would imagine that's more the Giants than it is the Steelers. They just probably wanted way more. There were reports out there that they had to be blown away with an offer for a guy that is going to leave after this season when this season is already done. I mean, doesn't make any sense to me, but I would guess that was the Giants, not the Steelers.
Chef Rusty Daddy has a second question that says, will Mike Williams be eligible to play this Sunday against the Commanders?
Yeah, he'll be at practice tomorrow. I'm excited to see him at practice tomorrow, and then he'll be able to play on Sunday if the Steelers deem him eligible. I don't know if he will. We'll see how fast he could get on this moving train. If anything, maybe next week, but I would say the door is definitely open for him to play this week.
Let's go over to Scotty Earl, who says, question, who's the backup behind Broderick Jones? Because that's the main spot I'm worried about now.
Yeah, it's Calvin Anderson right now. Take that as you will. Used to play for the Patriots. Super nice dude. Super nice guy. Yeah, that's it. That's the answer. It's not a good one, but that's the answer. I'm also worried about it. I thought it would have been the other position that they would have tried to upgrade, but they didn't, and they're going to go into the back half with Broderick and see what happens.
Let's go over to No Coast Golf, who says, it's been said that a new wide receiver will open George Pickens, but I think the bigger beneficiary might be the tight ends. What are your thoughts?
I think the biggest beneficiary might be Calvin Austin, to be honest, because I think this just adds to the defense to say, oh, Calvin Austin's been sneaky good. Now they go, oh, but Mike Williams. You got to cover Mike Williams. Calvin Austin, sneaky good, but still only sneaky good. But I agree with the tight ends. I would like to see the tight ends get moving. I really would. I would like to see Russ be able to throw over the middle of the field and find Pat Freiermuth and all these guys. I would like to see that more and more. I hope that it does open the door for that, but I'm not as confident in it as maybe you are.
Let's go over to Man Loco, who says, do you think the Preston Smith edition foreshadows a Alex Highsmith trade?
No, you can't trade anymore. The deadline ended an hour and a half ago, and the Preston Smith's this is the last year of his deal. He's 31 years old, so they're not going to trade him. This was a simple, we need to get better right now. How do we do that? This is how we do that. And it was a great move, one that they certainly won. They certainly walked away winners for that Preston Smith trade. But I would not say it foreshadows Alex Highsmith leaving.
Let's jump over to Panda Games, who says, so with all the Naj talk about him not coming back, how do you feel about Caleb Johnson from the Iowa Hawkeyes? Think he'd fit good with Jalen, but that might just maybe me being a Hawks fan. Yeah.
I love Caleb Johnson. Actually, he's a hard nose. He's a dude. I'm a big Iowa guy. I just think that Iowa runs a pro style offense and they run the ball all the time. So you got to be decent to run the ball all the time. You're either a running back or you're a tight end coming out of Iowa. That's all you are, or you're a lineman, I guess. So I'm all about it. I would like that. I think there'll be a couple of names that emerge. I do think him and Jalen would work simply because Caleb is more of an all-around running back, and then Jalen is more of a speedster, quick little twitchy guy who could pass block better than anybody in the NFL. Yeah, I think that would work. Caleb Johnson would be a good name, and you probably don't have to use a first-round pick on him. I'm almost certain you wouldn't.
Let's go to Stephen Williams, who says, what happens to Scotty Miller now?
Nothing. He does nothing. Nothing at all. If I had to guess, Cordero Patterson comes back. Jonathan Ward is inactive, maybe. Scotty Miller, I still think is going to be on because he's a gunner. He's a valuable gunner. And him and Van Jefferson will take over gunner duties. So I would just look at it and say Mike Williams is the Roman Wilson spot, and Scotty remains in the role he was in.
Let's go over to Territorio Steeler, who says, please make it make sense, Noah. Why did we go after an edge rusher and not an offensive tackle?
That edge rusher is very good at stuffing the run, is very good at helping improve the run defense. And I get it. The offensive tackle was an issue, but you weren't going to get a starting caliber offensive tackle. You just weren't. Cam Robinson was a wild trade. That should not have happened. And an edge rusher, was you could have did it. You could have went out and got it. They did. They went out and got it. So I just think the availability played a role there. The fact that you probably weren't going to go get somebody, and how quickly can they come in here and start and learn an offense? That's another factor that you'd have to take into this whole thing. And you just made your defense a lot better. Like Preston Smith, I get it, went for a 7th-round pick. He has started, I think, 91 of his 80 or 91 games or some crazy number like that, 100 and some games. The dude has just been around and been consistent, and that's what you're looking for. So I think it made I think it made them better. I get where you're coming from, but there were factors that played a role into that.
We got another contribution from Unlimited Moonballs, who says trading away picks was bittersweet. Khan has been cooking in the drafts, but I get it. Win now mode. Are the wide receivers still our weakest position group?
Offensive tackle's got to be, right? You got nothing going on there.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say wide receivers are very close set. They're almost the same. You got George Pickens, awesome. Now you got a Mike Williams, which is maybe like a Broderick Jones. And then you got a bunch of which I got more in Calvin Austin than I do Calvin Anderson. So if I had to pick, I would say offensive tackle, maybe. It's a very close call, though. It is a very close call between that and wide receiver.
Let's go to P-Love1, who says, is Corey Trice coming back? Sutton, Bishop, we have depth at the defensive back position.
I believe Corey Trice will be back probably next week. He'll return to practice tomorrow. I think he'll play next week against the Ravens in week 11. That's my guess. I don't really know. We'll find out more. He's going to be activated, or they'll open his return window tomorrow, and then they'll see what happens. But I just feel like he's not going to come back and be ready. They're not going to rush him into things in week 10. Instead, they'll wait until week 11 against the Ravens.
Let's go to Joe Weber, who says, the Steelers have the most complete team I've seen in years. Do you think they finish number 1 on defense and top 10 on offense?
I don't think they finish number 1 on defense. They have holes on defense. They just, those holes are the run game, and hopefully they cured that up and made that better, but we'll find out. That's all we could do right now is find out. I think they finished top 5 in defense, maybe top 3. Number 1 might be a little bit too high to expect from them. And then on offense, I think they could finish top 10 on offense the way things are moving. It's going to be a pick me. You got to catch up, which is difficult, but I do think that they have an opportunity to be top 10 for sure.
Let's go to Dathan Grants, who says, what is the absolute floor and the absolute ceiling for Mike Williams?
The absolute floor is he doesn't play, and he's just a guy that he's William Jackson. He shows up, you never hear of him. You're asking all season where he is, what's going on, why is he not playing, and then he just doesn't play. That's the absolute floor for Mike Williams. The ceiling is he turns back into Mike Williams. The ceiling is he's a guy who at one point was the 11th pick in the draft. The guy who, I think he was 11. He was definitely top 15 in the draft. And a guy who had all the potential in the world coming into the NFL, and then had moments where that potential was there. There were years where he averaged 20 yards of reception. That's crazy. But with Russell Wilson, that's a possibility. So I think the absolute ceiling is Mike Williams turns into a really, really good number 2, reliable, old school Mike Williams number 2. The floor is he doesn't play for the Pittsburgh Steelers because he can't get on the moving train.
Let's go to Lifted Ones, who says, how long will Herbig be out? I heard it may be longer than originally expected.
No, he'll be back hopefully in week 10, potentially in week 11. But there is an opportunity for him to come back. I would imagine he's a guy that begins to practice this week as well, and then they'll test the waters, see where he is by Sunday. He's got the possibility of playing in week 10. I would imagine it's no later than week 11.
Let's go to Kenneth, who says, what are the chances you think we lose both of our quarterbacks and we have to start from scratch after this season?
I think very, very slim. Russell Wilson's a guy that I could see wanting to stay. He wants the opportunity. At this point in Russell's career, he just wants to play football. He wants to start. He understands that's not going to be everywhere. That's not going to be most places. Pittsburgh's going to offer him that opportunity. Why would he not take it? So I'd say if this was just Justin, there's a possibility of no, but I still look at it the same way. Like these guys, if you tell them you are our starting quarterback, that's what they're looking for right now is just an opportunity to start. So I would say the chances are very slim that both these guys leave.
Let's go over to Ryan Pearson, who says, we know Pickens and Williams is 1 and 2, but who wins the 3 spot between Calvin Austin and Van Jefferson? And will Preston Smith play opposite of Cam, or will he play behind Watt and Highsmith?
So Preston will play behind Watt and Highsmith, most likely. I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens tomorrow because I'm telling you, man, that's the belly of a Larry Ogunjobi. Hey, that's a Larry Ogunjobi belly right there. As for the number 3, if I had to guess, it's Calvin Austin. Van Jefferson just kind of falls into the backup outside guy. Calvin Austin, remains the inside slot guy with George Pickens and Mike Williams.
Let's go to Peter, who says, is Frazier back? And if so, do they move McCollum over?
They don't move McCollum over. Frazier is expected to be back this week against the Commanders. McCollum will just go back to the bench. That's all they'll do. They're not going to get rid of Isaac Seumalo and Mason McCormick. No chance.
Let's go to James, who says, we have so many players becoming free agents at the end of the season. We're going to need all the draft picks we can keep or get. What say you?
Yeah, yes and no, but like a 5th round pick, you're losing a 5th, a 6th, and a 7th. So, I mean, I'm sorry for you guys, but my 3rd day of the NFL draft is easy peasy, and I'm not complaining about it. But I get where you're saying. You're going to want these guys. You could turn a 5th round pick into, I don't know. Who came in the 5th round? I'll find somebody. Alex Highsmith was a 3rd. Mason McCormick was a 4th. There are names out there. Logan Lee. You could go get a Connor Hayward. Like those options are there. Spencer Anderson. But I do think that what they've done is they've set themselves up right now to say, we're going to give ourselves the best shot at a Super Bowl right now and see what happens. And if we don't win it, we've done just enough to give ourselves a shot this year while also giving ourselves a good base to rely on next year. That's how I view it.
I had to double check this, but the Pittsburgh Steelers have not drafted anybody in the 5th round specifically since 2021, and that was Isaiah Loudermilk.
Yeah, I knew that. They went on a streak, and the Loudermilk they traded back in for. They went on a streak of just like, hey, 5th round pick. Yeah, do we even get one of those? Do we even know what a 5th round pick is? Yeah. No, they were gone forever. They traded back in for Loudermilk.
Before that, they had Zach Gentry in 2019. They had 2 in 2018, and that was Marcus Allen and Jalen Samuels. So take that for what you will.
I was going to say, they eventually just said, you know what? Maybe we're better off without him. So shout out Mike Williams.
Let's go to Territorio Steeler, who says, weren't we supposed to get something for CJ Henderson? Yeah. That was the idea behind signing him, wasn't it? Are we waiving him now?
No, they did not waive him. They waived Rodney Williams. That's how they cleared the roster spot. I guess CJ's here, and they're just going to see what they got. And a guy who's a former 10th overall pick. I mean, not bad. At 25 years old, if you're going to see what's up there and maybe there's something there, cool. That sounds good to me. If not, we'll see what happens. I thought that they could have got something for him. They clearly did not. And, we'll see what happens next. But they aren't going to waive him, from my understanding.
Let's go over to John Dobro and a bunch of other people asking this question as well. When does Cole Holcomb come back?
If I had to guess, next season. That's my expectation is next season. I don't expect him to come back. Nobody's giving me a hard update on Cole Holcomb, but at the same time, the way everybody's talking about Cole Holcomb makes me feel as if he is not close to returning right now, that he is still focused on the rehab and getting better, and he'll figure the rest out from there. But I don't think he's coming back this season. That's just a guess, but everything that I've got kind of indicates that he's not.
Let's close it out with this one from Dathan Grants, who says, how do you think Russell Wilson is going to utilize Mike Williams' skill set?
I like this one, and it's moon balls all day, every single day. Moonball City for Mike Williams. That's where he made his bread and butter in college. That's why he was drafted as high as he was drafted. That's why he lasted so long in Los Angeles, because they were Moonball City too. And Russell Wilson, man, he's Moonball City. So I like it. I think that's where he will be utilized, as a deep threat, as another guy that could spread the field and really make defenders think, okay, this is a deep threat. We got to pay attention to him, because he could go up and get it. And Russ loves to give his guys an opportunity to go up and get it. So, excuse me. I think his skill set fits with Russ. I don't know if it fits the offense. I don't know if it's the missing piece alongside George Pickens, or if it's just another George Pickens, but there are going to be opportunities for deep shots, and that's how Russell Wilson will utilize Mike Williams.
That's a wrap for today then.
Awesome. With that said, guys, we are heading out of here. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcast. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. We apologize again that I had to climb through some windows to get back into this house to do this show, but whatever it takes. We appreciate you guys sticking around. And with that said, we'll be back tomorrow. Enjoy a dark already, but a beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.